Hello, everybody. I'm Terry Owens, and welcome to Conversations with TL, where everyday people share how they're making life better for themselves and for others. You know, there is something about the power of a personal story. It can inspire, it can cause people to take action, it can be freeing, it can change lives. I saw a great example of that recently when I put a post up on LinkedIn. I have to say, I was overwhelmed by the response. I don't post often, and generally it's just resharing someone else's content. But the engagement generated by this post was like nothing I'd ever seen. There was one comment after another, people that I'd either worked with somewhere along the way, or friends, colleagues, all chiming in because I did something that I rarely do. I dropped the veil that so many of us hide behind and shared some of the cold, hard truths about my journey. How I went into hiding after being laid off from a job. The pain I felt realizing the impact of my career on my family. I heard from colleagues, and people I'd interviewed over the years, and because of the traction that the algorithm apparently generated, I heard from scores of people that I'd never met. I had no idea who these people were. And it was all because I was willing to be transparent and share a story. We've all got a story, the good, the bad, and sometimes the ugly. And by sharing your story, you never know who you can impact, the lives you can change. But there is an art to telling a story if you really want it to have meaningful impact. If you'd like some help in that area, if you'd like some support, I'd be glad to help. Just shoot me an email at terry@owensmediagroup.net. That's terry@owensmediagroup.net. And that's a perfect segue to our guest today. He is a master storyteller, and I am delighted to have him join us. Let me pull him onto the screen. Gary Hibbs is the founder and CEO of Unleashed to Lead, among many titles that he wears these days. Gary believes that many leaders are isolated and hiding in their fears, and his passion is to help those leaders in hiding to be free. Gary, thank you so much for joining us on Conversations with TL. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Terry, it's great to be here, my friend. So excited about this. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Gary is also the author of the upcoming book, Coming Out of Hiding, The Joy of Living and Leading Unashamed, Untethered and Unleashed. He's a certified coach, speaker, and trainer, and he is a fellow traveler in the struggle to be free. Gary, I'm excited about this new book. Do we want to start there, or?
Well, I can start with my story, and the first part of that book is that I was in hiding, and I've always loved the quote by Thoreau, and he said a number of generations back, he said the mass of men, and he could have said women, but back then they said men, but the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. And I think that is so true, and that was a underpinning of my story, no doubt about it. So, I'm the fifth of six kids, and, I grew up in the church and all of these things, I could talk the lingo of the church, and I'm still part of the church, but I always thought that I had to perform. The message of the church, at least my tradition as a Christian, and I know everyone listening isn't a Christian, but they've heard of the gospel, and the gospel of the good news, is that God came and did for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. But even though I knew that in my head, it didn't travel the 18 inches to my heart. And I thought I basically had to earn my way for God to approve of me. So, I had to earn it, and what I found out, Terry, is that God loves me, period. No conditions. I don't have to earn it. And that was the freedom, the grace. The word grace really became more than just an intellectual concept. But, to back that up, I think that's pretty common. And even in the church, that you have to earn the approval of God. And I just couldn't. And so what I did was I would hide. And, because if you knew, Tony Robbins says this so beautifully, he says that if people have fear, a basic human condition is fear that you're not enough. And if you're not enough, then you're not going to be loved. And, every human being, the greatest, and even the scriptures say this, faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love, so we want to be loved. We want to be accepted just as we are. But even though I was steeped in the church and all of that, I never truly believed it. So I was more interested in my reputation. That's who people think you are.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily who you are.
Yeah.
Your character is who you are. So there was this division in my life.
I know it well, Gary. I tell you, after being in and around television for almost 30 years and to see that career go away, I'll be honest, I was lost. It was my identity. It was who I was. It was who I thought I was anyway. And I was never someone who thought of myself with a big ego. I don't deny that I didn't have some pride, but I wasn't, I saw the platform as one that was useful for helping to educate and inform. And that's how I viewed it. It wasn't about me being on TV. It was about me using that vehicle to help others.
Yes.
And when I lost that, I was lost for a good little bit.
Who is Terry?
Yeah.
Who am I?
Yeah. So you are so spot on there. So now talk about this work you're doing to help people.
Yes. So, my story of 5th and 6th kids growing up in the church, God forbid if mom found out that I had done something wrong. And my mom did the best she could. But, it was very hard for her to deal with this emotional kid named Gary who cried a lot, In fact, I cried so much as a kid. I think my sensitivity is both my gift and my challenge because you can operate out of feelings. I mean, she would even say, you need to go to the bathroom and just stay in there until I tell you to come out. And that room became dubbed as the tear room in my honor, because of my sensitivity. So I started to learn that if I showed who I was, and this through emotion, that may not bode well for me. And again, God bless my mom. It was hard for her. And so I learned to hold things in my head. I did not learn how, although I had a lot of feelings inside, I didn't let them show. So, I ended up eventually crashing. I mean, one of the challenges I had is when this pain got to such a point, I would drink. And I didn't drink even in high school, undergrad, but when I was in grad school, this hiding, it became so kind of intense because I got worried, that other people would find out who I am. Didn't drink often, but when I did, like the theologian Martin Luther, he said, if you're going to sin boldly. But I would drink the blackout often when I did. And that had consequences where I crashed and I had to get healthy. I mean, it's kind of a bit of a miracle. And I thank God that he held on to me even in my deepest valleys. But I crashed and I ended up losing actually my family. There's a lot of detail in there in the career that I loved, and I had to get healthy. And I did. So the book and also my company, which I'll make mention of real quickly, but my mission now today is to help people who have crashed. So just this past February 12th, I had my 2-year sobriety date, which is pretty cool. A year after, then that was in February of 22. And then a year later, literally to the day, Terry, I came out of my valley, literally and figuratively. I feel like I'm living on a mountaintop, but I was on top of Mount Kilimanjaro, literally. I got healthy. I lost weight. And when the opportunity came to do this kind of thing, I'm 62 years old. When I climbed it, I was 61 years old, about the oldest. I told people, well, I'm going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And they looked at me and said, I know the bubble in their head was saying, okay, he's crazy. And after that first day, I thought I was going to be medevaced, which they do, medevaced off the mountain. But thank God I made it over 8 days, 19,431 feet high, and 45 miles. It was quite a thing. But the recovery, and this, I've come to believe, Terry, that when we are anesthetizing, it can be with shopping, it can be with approval, it can be with all kinds of different things. Mine was alcohol every now and then, which had bad consequences. That we all have some sort of addiction that masks our pain, and you can't avoid your pain. You have to go through it. Eventually, you have to face it. And people say, yeah, you have to go through it. People say, how do you do it? Well, actually, the word how means honest, open, and willing. You have to be honest with yourself. Not be in denial. So I started this company that I just got the LLC, just getting this up and running. I happen to be a certified coach with John Maxwell, a lot of great leadership principles. And John I'm on his team, and he's very fond of saying that the hardest person to lead is the person we stare at in the mirror every morning. And my life bears that out. And you can't give away what you don't have. It's kind of a miracle that I was able to accomplish some of the things that I did. It was by the grace of God. So it's not like my whole life was a waste, but how much better could I have been if I was living wholeheartedly, as Brene Brown says, live wholeheartedly, be vulnerable, be honest, and in my Christian tradition, it really strikes me, Terry, in Genesis 3, God asks this question after the fall. He says, where are you? He said that to Adam and Eve, and it wasn't that God didn't know. It was that we need to ask ourselves this very sobering question.
Yeah, we're all hiding something somewhere. Yes. Let me ask you this, though, because when we talk about working with leaders, most people probably don't perceive leaders to be folks who are living lives of isolation and hiding in fear. How do you arrive at that conclusion?
That people are living in fear. I think most people are hiding to some degree. I really do. And we get, I hear leaders talk about optics all the time, and we're so image conscious, And again, that goes to what do people see on the outside? But when the inside can be an absolute mess. And I'll tell you, Terry, now that I'm not totally wholehearted, I'm not totally there, and none of us are, but we work towards that. But I'm wholehearted in the sense that I feel so free, and I think leaders are oftentimes the worst leader, and I used to be one of these, are insecure. The worst leaders are insecure, so they lord it over, or they have top-down leadership, and they have to have the last word or be the smartest person in the room. They find it hard to be vulnerable and reveal themselves, because maybe somebody, as Tony Robbins says, will say, you're not enough, and I'm not going to follow you. I've actually, talked to a CEO one time who said, I'm not going to let them know my faults. Because they need somebody that they can follow and that they can believe in. Well, I'll tell you, first of all, I didn't say this to the person in that conversation. A later conversation I did. I said, you don't want them to see their faults, but let me tell you, they already know.
Yeah.
They already know. I mean, our faults. And so you just tell them. And when I see a leader who's vulnerable, you can't, you have to be competent to some degree.
Right.
You can't just be vulnerable and that's it. You have to have the competencies. But people recognize authenticity, and that's when someone will trust you. And, I think trust is the cornerstone in personal relationships, in professional relationships. And when you're real, then you're free. And that reality lets people know that they can be human beings too. And they don't have to be perfect or that kind of thing. When you create a culture where you can be real, you can be authentic, you're vulnerable, and you model that as a leader, then you create this culture where people will risk. If you have a culture of fear, then you're not going to feel the freedom to risk and be innovative and be creative.
Yeah.
It's only in that kind of culture will people do that. And that's the kind of, if you're a leader, if you're a CEO, you want people thinking and risking and trying, but not keeping their head down just so they can keep their job.
Right. Stay out of the way. Keep your head down. Stay out of the way. I tell you, one of the things that resonated, I mentioned at the top of the program, one of the things that resonated the most with folks in this LinkedIn post that I did this week was a suggestion that leaders should do more listening and talking.
Yes.
And I can't tell you how many CEOs and others chimed in around that comment in the post. First, they were just, some of these were folks I've known for 20 years, and to see me be vulnerable in that way publicly, it's one thing to see it in one-on-one interactions, because I try and be authentic in all of my engagements, but to do it publicly, I think it took a lot of people. I don't know, folks were just surprised by it, and I've never seen so many impressions on a post, Gary. It was pretty amazing, and I'm so excited that I did it, and just, you never know how you touch people, and it's great when you get a positive response. So you are working with the Maxwell folks, but you're also, you started something new. What are you doing?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Just started this LLC. Maybe I've bitten off more than I can chew. I don't think so. So I'm growing a company, Unleashed to Lead. It's, lead yourself well so that you can then lead others well. I mean, that's basically what we need to do. But happenstance, I wasn't looking for a job that I currently have taken up, but I happened to run into, my pastor used to say, you go nowhere by accident. But I ran into a friend I used to work with at a Panera, just happenstance. And she said, hey, there's this place interested. Would you be interested in being on the board? I said, fine, because my career has been working with older adults. And I've loved it. I've loved my career. So this place called Knollwood asked me to come on the board, and shortly thereafter they said, do you want to be our CEO? I said, well, sure. So I love that. And in fact, I'm just a few weeks in. It started February 1st in this new role, while I'm also doing Unleashed to Lead and working on the John Maxwell team. But it's so wonderful to come here. It's funny you say that, Terry. The first thing I need to do, and I've tried to do this and will for a while longer, is listen. Mm-hmm. I don't need to come in and, make my mark, no, making my mark. People want to know, and they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And, like the sales, the people in their different areas are ready to show you all their accomplishments and, all that kind of thing. And I get that, but I say, no. That's fine. We'll get to all that stuff. But tell me, why are you here? What do you love? What do you love to do? What gets you jazzed? Why did you come here? Why did you choose this profession? And it's so basic, but we don't always do that. We kind of jump right into, the business. Well, the business is people. At the end of the day, the P&Ls, the balance sheet, the cash flow, important, absolutely. but they all go to serve people. And that's essentially what I'm trying to do here in this role. And I think in life, somebody recently said, don't try to be the most interesting person in a room. Try to be the most interested. Interested, so that you meet people where they are. And I'm having a blast.
But there is a gift to being able to enroll people in your vision through powerful storytelling.
Yes.
And how do you plan to use that as you advance not only your business, but this new role?
Yeah, it's so funny that you say that. I mean, a couple of the meetings I've been in today, I sat with there's a group of men that get together here, and Knollwood was founded by General Dwight Eisenhower and his wife Mamie about 62 years ago.
Wow.
I'm the first non-general to be in this role. It's kind of neat.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, first non-general, So I said, you can't call me general, but how about your highness? No, we had a lot of fun with that. But I'm the first non-general. So there's a lot of military folks here, and I had a town hall already, and I had met a couple people who had been in the Oval Office, and I said, just for fun, I was stunned. I said, this is an amazing place. How many of you people in this room, there were a couple hundred people have been in the Oval Office. Terry, I'm not kidding you. I think a couple out of a couple hundred, about half of the hands went up.
Wow.
I've met admirals and generals, of course, and all. So their stories and sharing your story, and when the word retirement sadly means to go away. Well, how many want to sign up for going away?
No.
So the thing is, and you're in the media and you're all about communication, and I love that you tell great stories, but the storytelling is sharing lives. It's the narrative. So I have asked people to tell their stories, and I tell my story. And when I'm vulnerable, I cannot tell you how many people, especially in the recovery world, when they hear the story in a setting, I'll say it in groups, my story, and they'll say afterwards, can I talk to you for a second?
Just instant connection.
Can I talk to you for a second? Because, we all grapple with this hiding because of shame or fear or whatever it is, and it just opens people up. Yeah. And one of the hardest things in the workplace, a lot of companies will do engagement surveys and all of this. Trust is just a huge thing. And when you are honest with your story, you build trust. And trust is absolutely essential. So how will I lead? I will tell my story as authentically as I can. And you tell me your story. And I need to, as you said, listen.
Gary, thank you so much. We're up against the clock, but I really am glad I had a chance to catch up with you and get you on here today to impart some of your wisdom. I trust some folks are going to benefit from this segment, and you just never know. You never know how you impact people, and it's just showing up, being genuine and transparent, and you make a difference in the lives of others. I appreciate you, man. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks, Terry. Great to be here. Appreciate you, my friend.
All right. That is going to do it for this episode of Conversations with T.O. I'm Terry Owens. Thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you next time right back here on Conversations with T.O.